Hey everyone, welcome back to the Trendcrusher podcast. I'm Peter K. Internal Bleeding are a band that need no introduction to those who are into death metal and specifically slam. They're pioneers of slam. I got a chance to speak to Chris from the band. They have a new album out right now, Settle All Scores. Here's my chat with Chris. Okay, this is a big one for me. I'm joined by Chris from Internal Bleeding all the way from New York, man. How's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
Yeah, and the reason we're speaking is because you guys have a new album out, Settle All Scores. Uh,
Yes, sir.
I don't know. I mean, like my initial thought is considering just how long you guys have been doing this for, right? And does does it kind of change what's different, what's new, when you all put out an album, especially in like 2025?
I think you have to be when you're writing material, I think you have to be cognizant um of the fact, and we talked about this a little bit before we went on about change. I think you have to be cognizant of the fact that the world is changing and that tastes are changing and music is changing, and you have to be able to adapt some of that change to what you're doing, and you also have to stay true to who you are. So I think we manage that. I think we managed to put out something that's really aggressive and really competitive, but it still sounds like internal bleeding, but it also fits into the time period that we put it out in, if that makes sense.
Okay, so I mean, this is something I'm also very curious with a lot of musicians that I speak to, right? I mean, you talked about like change and keeping up with the times. Do you actually keep up with like reviews or kind of like what people say about your music? Or I don't know. Is that
Yeah,
something
yeah,
that,
yeah. No, I do keep up with it. And actually there's a couple of publications that have really good reviewers that I think personally, even if and I've gone through, they've reviewed like almost all our albums, and um they have a real good understanding of our catalog. And when they write a review, and sometimes things come in for criticism, I find them that they could be valid in my view, and I appreciate that. So yeah, I do keep up with reviews from our stuff, and I do keep up with reviews for other bands that I like. I can't do it, constantly, but I'll spend 10 minutes a day looking at reviews, and or I'll put on podcasts in the background and listen to them and stuff like that to keep connected, so yeah, I mean, I used to get up, yeah, yeah, my drummer, may he rest in peace, he used to get so upset at bad reviews. And he'd be like, "You got to say something." And I'm like, "Why? Who cares?" Some people get really, 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 really bent out of shape about negative reviews. I never did. I don't care. Everybody's got an opinion. If you don't like it, you don't like it. What are you going to do? Fortunately for us, generally everything's positive. So, you know, carry on.
yeah, and it's interesting, right? Because I grew up like getting into metal in like early 2000s, right? So the new metal was the thing, and you had like all the labels that you looked at it had, new metal bands and stuff like that. And again, there is like, I don't know, it's very strange. Culture is cyclical, right? 20 odd years later, now you're seeing new metal bands make a comeback. But like with even with death metal, there was like this entire kind of wave that happened, and now it's there. But I have to ask, I mean, and I didn't want to ask this too early in our conversation, but how does it feel that when you see these people who kind of like, you know, are into slam, and you guys, when I look at it, because I asked a very similar question to the guys from Suffocation also, right? Like, what does it feel like when you hear like y'all have literally spawned an entire genre for people like in Indonesia and Southeast Asia who are playing your music, who are like halfway around the world, right? What does that feel like?
It's uh it's both gratifying, of course, and humbling. I mean, it's pretty. it's pretty amazing that there's so many bands that were spawned because of us. I look back on it and I just think it's wild because when we first started doing the slam thing, nobody was doing this and people doing it and people slagged us off and thought we were just, whatever, boring or whatever, or weren't brutal enough. And then all of a sudden it was like the world caught up to us. And now it's become a thing and it's wild. It's just totally wild.
So okay, so follow up, right? What was your initial reaction? I mean, because like Suffocation played here in India, and that was, I must say, easily one of like the heaviest shows I have seen. And unfortunately, I didn't catch them with Frank Mullen, but I caught them with Ricky, who is
Ricky, yeah.
still, I must add, is like a phenomenal vocalist, right? Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
and seeing their reaction to like people halfway around the world in India singing along, going nuts. Um, what was that? I mean, like, what was that initial reaction when you realize that like people are into slam? Or like, has there been any like fan interaction which has kind of like blown your mind, where you thought like
Uh,
you never
wha-
really imagined people listening to your music?
well, we have a similar experience when we played in at a Hammer Sonic Festival in Indonesia. Um, I was completely it was such how do I explain this? It was such like a cultural slap to the face. It was awesome. It was awesome being a stranger in a strange land. It's not like we're playing in Europe. I'm a and people in Europe are mixed. They're black, they're white, they're this and this. But here you play with a bunch of people you're playing in front of these people who have a distinct culture, a distinct heritage, a distinct way of dressing, looking this and all this cool stuff. And then all of a sudden they're going nuts when you're playing. And it's such a cultural shock in a good way, not in a negative way that your brain can't process your brain can't process something that like mind blowing. I remember after we played, I said to my drummer and my vocalist, I was like, we've got to go out in the crowd and hang out and have fun and really embrace this. And we did, and that ended up being more fun than playing the show. Is hanging out in the crowd. I have some absolutely fantastic pictures from that show because so I'm 6'4", right? And most so you know where I'm going with this, right? Indonesians are generally not very tall. So there's pictures of me like holding up two Indonesians like this and stuff like really funny stuff. We all had such a great time. It was the trip of a lifetime. It was just awesome. And it's mind blowing. You can't, it's so, to me, I guess if you're a musician that tours constantly and goes around to these places all the time, that it gets to be old hat. But to me, it's just a mind blowing experience for me.
Yeah, and actually, it's no surprise that you guys played Hamasonic. I mean, I have a CD by an Indonesian band. I don't know if you can see it properly. They're called
Yeah.
Yasad.
Uh-huh.
And this
Yeah,
is
I
their
know them.
album. Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what I was talking about, right? Like these guys have like, while at some point, reviews say suffocation worship and things like that, but I'm like, hey, you know what? If you're into that sound, why not? And these guys are like hard. I mean, like, fuck. I was really, really surprised the
Yeah, they
first
are.
time I hear it.
They
Right?
hit they hit hard as hell.
Yeah, yeah. And they've actually toured, played walk-in and stuff like that because I've been following them for a while. And it blows my mind that when I think that there's just so many fans of like extreme music, and it's not just like Indonesia, it's like countries like Thailand,
Oh yeah.
Cambodia, and stuff like that. Vietnam also, I was very surprised that there's
Yeah,
like,
even China. Yeah, for
yeah, yeah.
sure.
So
It's
so
crazy.
it's crazy like that. But coming back, and before we go too much into the, you know, impact that you guys had, tell me about like Settle All Scores. I mean, uh I'm sure at this point, like you're tired of talking about like a lot about the album because I'm sure you're doing press and stuff like that. But what would be one thing you think would surprise people about the album?
Oh, that's a good question. I had never thought of that. Um, huh. I think I think a lot of people will be surprised by the production. Okay. Especially if you've been following our band for a long time, you know we've always kind of had trouble with production, and this album, the production is ridiculous. It's just it's beyond heavy. It's super in your face and aggressive. And I think that's something that'll surprise a lot of people. They'll go like, "Whoa, the production is so good on this album," and that's something we worked at, and I'm happy we worked at it. I don't think there's no big surprises musically on the album. I think there are, but most listeners not might not. We did a lot of different kind of things where like we do what I call split chords, where one guitar is playing one half of a chord, another guitar is playing another half of a chord, which completes a full chord. Like we never did anything like that before, and we added a lot of that into the music because of my love of jazz. I added a lot of like tried to figure out a way to make jazzy chords sound death metally, and by splitting the chords in half with one guitar doing one side, one guitar doing the other, you can play really fast and it doesn't sound like crap because you're splitting the chord. So we did a lot of stuff like that, which was I think we never did before. I use a lot of inverted chords, which I haven't done before. So there's stuff up our sleeves that we did that we didn't do before. Is it like a major surprise? No, I think the production's probably, at least to me, the production was the biggest surprise when I listened to it, the final product. I was like, wow, this is the best product we've ever put out.
Nice. So at this point, let's play a song from the album. Is there a song that you think would kind of best be an introduction to someone who's never heard internal bleeding before?
Yeah, I think either enforced compliance or deliberate desecration.
Okay. And why those songs?
Um, because I think they're the most well, they're my personal favorite,
Fair.
but I think both those songs carry riffs from spanning from 1992 all the way to now. Like those songs contain a little bit of everything from every era of the band. Plus, it has my love of Black Sabbath in it. So that's another reason why. One of the things that sets us apart is that we have these for a slam band. No slam band is doing like extended Black Sabbathy endings with
Hmm.
with shakers and melodies that's really 1970s like rock, and so that's why I also picked Enforced Compliance because of that at the end, which is I'm so happy the way that came out.
Awesome. So maybe let's end with that track and let's play Deliberate Desecration first. So here it is.
Cool.
The time's the day. Years gone by, but I aim for you. It's remains. Never forgot. Never forgave. Could you turn let your blood shed straight out your face? Your time has come. Revenge is mine. I have won.
And that's Deliberate Desecration by Internal Bleeding. And I've got Chris from the band with me. Now, you know, I definitely want to touch upon this, and this is like a recurring segment in the podcast. You said you kind of keep up with music, you listen to podcasts, uh, you said you even listen to jazz. Uh, what are you currently listening to at the moment?
Oh God, I'm listening right now. I'm listening to like 80s and 90s goth.
Okay, interesting.
Okay, so like Bauhaus, um, a really good band. They're more like a 90s band called Vast. I'm listening. I don't know why Echo and the Bunnymen. I don't know why I've gotten into that groove lately, but that's what I've been listening to lately.
Okay, nice. And the reason I do this is right, like either you have musicians who don't enjoy listening to music much or are listening to something completely different to what their genre is. So thanks so much
Yeah,
for
I
sharing
listen.
that.
I still listen to plenty of death metal, but I just have such broad musical tastes. I can't. I have to listen to whatever mood strikes me fancy. If I want to listen to country music, I'll listen to country music. Not that I like it. I'm just saying my tastes go all over the place.
Hmm. Okay. Coming back to kind of like slam, right? And like I said, you guys have been around for so long. And I don't mean that in a bad way, right? I mean that
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah. I
terms
know. Yeah, of course.
in a way that like you guys have kind of persevered through so many different trends, so many different changes, right? Uh, what do you think is like, especially what do you think is so New York about slam? Because I feel like I've spoken to like the guys from Suffocation, I've spoken to a bunch of guys from New York itself, right? And again, help me understand the difference between like the Long Island scene and the New York scene, and all of that. Like, what do you think made like slam originate from New York? Why not from any other part of?
Slam originated from Long Island.
Okay,
So, uh, um,
reality.
now people from outside of Long Island will call it New York, of course, but Long Islanders are proud of being from Long Island. So, I mean, all the great slams started on Long Island: Suffocation, Pyrexia, Internal Bleeding, you know, Afterbirth, all that great stuff was all from Long Island. And that's not to take away from the rest of New York, because you got Morpheus Descends. You have, oh my God, you have so many other great bands from the Immolation, Cannibal Corpse. So New York's a very diverse place. But I think the one thing that ties New York and Long Island together, and what brings about a certain type of style of music, is the pace of life here is crazy and hectic. Um, the musical culture of New York, especially like coming out of Manhattan and Queens and all the stuff, the New York City is so diverse and filled with hip hop and all kinds of stuff that seeps into your blood. You can't escape it. The streets have their own rhythm, and that shows up in the music. I think it's part of the DNA of New York. And I think that's really a defining difference. I think it's tough for somebody who doesn't live in New York to come up with music that sounds like a band from New York, no matter how hard you try, because you haven't been there to let the lifestyle seep into your bloodstream.
And I think, growing up in a very similar city to New York, I think not from a cultural aspect, but just from the sheer number of people. Like I've lost track of the number of people that live here in Bombay, Mumbai, but like from everything I've seen about New York, because that's what I also end up doing, right? Like I end up going down the rabbit hole of uh, YouTube, and all you have to do is just watch like one channel.
You know what? I just did this about um I went down this rabbit hole about horns and trucks with horns in India and Pakistan. And, uh, and the more horn and what is it? The sign that says yes,
Horn,
horn, please.
horn, okay, please. Yeah.
Horn, okay, please. I went down a whole rabbit hole. And now on Instagram, I'm following three different guys who make these horns. Like it's turned into this whole thing, and I think it's so culturally cool.
Yeah, yeah.
And so anyway, sorry, I had to mention that because
No,
it's
no.
just I've been obsessed with it for like a month now.
So I've done that with, of course, metal music and stuff like that. But it's
Right.
also about the food places, and like it is so culturally diverse. And I think the last channel I was watching, where it's like the best food that you get post 11 p.m. And that's one of the things I think I could totally understand, because like there are parts of this city where I grew up that I know exactly post 11 p.m. where you can find food. And I'm not talking just like junk food or things like that, like food that you really enjoy. And it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be like stuff you'd only enjoy post drinking, but just generally. And I'm like, wow, how does this happen? And like, so I get what you're talking about when you're saying about like a city like this, right? Like unless you actually live here, you can't uh really get it.
Yeah,
And
it seeps into your bloodstream, and I bet you find, even though where you live is really crowded, um, I bet you find some kind of serenity in that, or comfort in that. Whereas somebody like me might be uncomfortable because it's even too crowded for somebody like me who lives, in a fairly crowded area. So like you said, it's cultural, it seeps into you, and New York just has this vibe. I can't it's just this electric vibe that just it New York vibrates all the time. It's always vibrating, even at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, it's vibrating. You can feel it. And that just translates into great music.
and I don't know what your thoughts are, but uh I enjoy watching this YouTuber called Casey Neistat, his videos of New York. And he used to live in LA. He had left New York in LA, and
Okay,
then
I know who you're talking about. Okay.
yeah. And when he came back to New York, he kind of just did this like love story. And all his videos are like very well kind of put together and stuff. But yeah, there's just something about it. It's like almost you watching it and you kind of like, okay, I know exactly what this guy is talking about. So it's very interesting from just a cultural perspective.
Yeah, sure. It's awesome. I love that like I said, I love the New York culture, but I love absorbing culture from anywhere. So
So talking about that, right? And just talking about like you guys, and I mentioned this before, like it's been over 3 decades. Uh, and you've had stints with the band also, right? Uh, what still keeps internal bleeding? Like what is the kind of thing that drives you guys all these years later?
Um, huh, I guess we're on a mission to accomplish things and play music and travel and stuff like that, and it just never stops. We believe in what we're doing, and none of us have to do it to make a living, which is great. So like we sit in a good position. We can go on the road when we want to go on the road, and it's more of a hobby than it is a way of a living. So when you look at it that way, if you enjoy a hobby like whatever, building model cars, you're not just going to stop doing it unless you're not interested in it anymore. So it's kind of like that's how we look at it. But it's getting tougher as I get closer to age 60 to do, just because it's physically tough and there is a lot of stress involved, and I don't want to deal with the stress. I'm like getting my tolerance for stress is getting lower and lower as I get older and older. Like I can't wait to retire so I don't have to deal with all the stress of work and this and that. So my tolerance for stress is getting really low, but I still love it, so might as well keep doing it.
Okay. And I know you guys are playing a bunch of shows. I just saw that you're uh, doing European festivals next year. So definitely anyone who wants to check out the new album and check you guys out live. But you talked about jobs, right? And again, if you're comfortable sharing, has there been a moment where, someone in your job came across the band, and what was that reaction that they had? I mean, if you're comfortable talking about it.
Sure. Okay, I'll give you a couple of stories. One advertising agency um, I worked at, they wanted to use the album liner notes from our second album to show off our ability with Photoshop. This is in the early 90s.
No
So
way.
Photoshop, yeah, so Photoshop wasn't very popular and not many people used it, and we were trying to show the potential of what can be done. Anyway, we had to have the liner notes proofread by a proofreader, and she got so upset by the lyrics, she came storming out of our office and said, I am not proofreading these lyrics. I refuse to do it. Oh, that was pretty funny. So, everybody kind of knows that all my clients now know that I'm involved in this, and most of them think it's awesome. So they'll like, when the album came out, I had like 4 or 5 clients send me text messages that said, "Congratulations, that's awesome." Or if I walk in their office, they're like, "Hey, rock stars here," and stuff like that, which is hilarious to me. So it's always been a positive experience. Um, Sometimes fun stuff happens. Like a couple of weeks ago, I was out with a client at Starbucks having coffee, and some kid came up to me to take a picture and wanted an autograph. And my client was like, "You got to be kidding me." I was like, "Yeah, this happens occasionally." And he's like, he was just shaking his head. He's like, "I can't believe I'm sitting with somebody who gives out autographs." I was like, "Yeah, it's a little embarrassing, but whatever." And he was cool about it. He just thought it was. He just like we walked back to his office. And he's like, "Hey, everybody, guess what just happened?" And I'm like, "Oh God, you're embarrassing me." So it's been really. I mean, it's been really fun to have clients who understand what I do and know that I have two different personas. That I'm a very very good businessman at one end and a raging death metal head on the other.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
That's really really cool. I mean, I must say, I mean, like, uh, I remember personally, right? Like, I was living in Europe for a bit, and this was in Poland. And Poland, again, if you've been there, is a very like strong Catholic country, even though they have like black metal and stuff like that.
yeah. I
Here's
know it's
me,
generally a very strong Catholic country. Yes.
yeah. So like, here's me, this Indian guy, and these guys look at me and they're like, "You listen to what?" And I was like, "Yeah," and they're like, "You know Behemoth?" I was like, "Yeah." Why? Like, why are you guys looking at me like that? And like a couple of my colleagues who are slightly older actually like did listen to music, so they tried to get me in a sold out Behemoth show unsuccessfully. But yeah, I mean, it was just crazy for them that like someone from India listens to metal and stuff like that. So yeah, it was fun when I look back at it. But
Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
it
You know,
is interesting.
yeah, it's funny. I never got back before the internet and the letter writing days. I never. I think I got a couple of letters from India. Not
I'm
many,
sure. I'm sure.
you know. Um, but now with the internet, I used to get letters from kids from Iran, and they used to tell me they'd have to go out into the desert to listen to music to stay away from the moral police.
Yeah, yeah.
They would go
It's
out into the middle of the desert and listen to music, which I thought was just, as an American, I can't wrap my head around that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
but to be
It's
that brave just to listen to music, that's inspiring.
yeah. But to kind of wrap, right? And not particularly from a band perspective, but personally, uh, considering how long you've been doing music and stuff like that, do you have like a bucket list of anything that you want to achieve, do?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to play India. That's on my bucket list. Um, and then honestly, the only other bucket list item I have is all those European festivals, and we're doing them. Like
Awesome.
I've pretty much I've stuck around long enough where I've gone. I can say to myself, "Holy shit, I did it! I did everything I wanted to do." And that is like when I reach that, like at the end of August next summer after the festivals, when I reach that, that is going to be like a huge deal for me in my life. I spent more than half my life doing this.
Yeah,
That's when you think about that, that's pretty wild. I spent more than half my life doing this, and it's like I'm finally going to get to the top of Mount Everest, and I just hope I make it there.
you should, man. And I hope
I
you
hope
guys
so
play.
because
I hope you.
that's like really it's like after that there's an expression. After that everything's gravy.
Yeah.
You know, after that everything's gravy. The maybe I'll go into cruise control and relax a little. I don't know what I'll do, but I can't believe that I stuck around long enough to like actually fulfill all my dreams from when I was a kid.
That's awesome, man.
At least musically.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I'm very blessed and happy to be on this path.
Awesome. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much, Chris, for taking
Yeah,
time
this
out.
is this is awesome. I'm glad we were able to figure out a time to make it work, and I hope everybody who's listening enjoys it. Check out Internal Bleeding. Contact us on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. We're pretty social. Uh, you know, would love to hear from people.
Awesome. Awesome. And that was Chris from Internal Bleeding. Here's his second pick from the album for all of you. Here's Enforced Compliance.
Surely down, after the rules, it's simply not a valid defense. Dominance, bend to my will, often with my mind and react. Lighting up on our
And that was Enforced Compliance by Internal Bleeding of their latest album, Settle All Scores. If you're still tuned in, why don't you leave me a rating on whichever podcast platform you're listening to this episode on. As always, if you want to get in touch, hit me up, trendcrusher@gmail.com, or visit my profiles on social media. Just search for Trendcrusher. Got one more episode coming out in the next couple of days. Stay tuned for that. I'll see you soon. Cheers.